Andrew Yang, who is now the leading candidate for the mayor of New York, is getting torn apart online over a tweet that only a pandering sociopath would write. Now, before I get to this tweet, let me first properly set this up so you know exactly what is going on here. This from The Week. Amid escalating violence in Jerusalem on Monday, at least 20 Palestinians, including 9 children, have been killed after Israel launched air raids on the Gaza Strip, the Palestinian Health Ministry told Al Jazeera. Jerusalem has been the site of unrest for the last several days as Palestinians protested against potential evictions in East Jerusalem, and Israeli police met the demonstrations, which took place at the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex, with force. Earlier Monday, Hamas fired several rockets at Israel after the group's ultimatum demanding Israel withdraw its security forces from Al-Aqsa, where they clashed with Palestinians inside, resulting in injuries to 300 Palestinians and 21 officers, The Guardian reports. In response to the rockets, Israel carried out the deadly airstrikes. Now, this I just have to address. Clashed with Palestinians. Even in this article that, for the most part, represents what went on here, they still resort to saying, oh, these two sides clashed, giving the impression that Palestinians and the Israeli government equally clashed together. They equally committed the same amount of violence, when that is not at all what happened. There are several videos of the so-called clashes going on. You have Palestinians here in prayer in a mosque getting bombarded, attacked by Israeli security forces. So one side has weapons, has smoke bombs, stun grenades, tear gas. The other side has their shoes off, praying. Yeah, this is a clash. But you saw the gist of this. The gist of this here: 20 Palestinians killed in Israeli airstrikes, including 9 children. Andrew Yang's reply to this: I'm standing with the people of Israel who are coming under bombardment attacks and condemn the Hamas terrorists. The people of New York City will always stand with our brothers and sisters in Israel who face down terrorism and persevere. What? The Israeli government murdered 20 people, including 9 children. They instigated this. They instigated all of this with the attacks on the mosque, with the evictions that they're trying to institute in occupied territories. You have here a situation where there is clearly an aggressor. The aggressor is the Israeli government. They're the ones doing the damage. They're the ones being the aggressor. Andrew Yang sees this violence, sees the death by the Israeli government, and comes out and defends Israel. Now, before I get to some of the replies to this, which tear him apart, the UN, of course, also recognizes what's going on here. The Secretary General expresses his deep concern over continuing violence in occupied East Jerusalem. He urges Israel to cease demolitions and evictions in line with its obligations under international humanitarian and human rights law. The Israeli government again and again and again violates international law. The UN calls it out. There is very little coverage of this in the mainstream press, at least in the West, because they're allied with Israel. So there is very little recognition of the actual human rights violations that are going on. Also, the ones in the center of all this, the churches in Jerusalem, are calling on the international community to stop Israel's atrocities. So in case it wasn't any more clear how wrong and completely sociopathic Andrew Yang's tweet was, here are some replies now. Mehdi Hassan here, saying hundreds of Palestinians injured, other Palestinians dead, one of the holiest sites in Islam raided, and zero mention or solidarity from Yang. Total erasure of Palestinians here from the leading Democratic mayoral contender in New York. Rashida Tlaib here. I see some who were silent as Palestinians were ripped from their homes and tear gassed in their holiest mosques, now finding their voices to stand with the Israeli government as airstrikes leave Palestinian children dead. Where are your voices when Palestinians are under threat? Aria Blooms here, saying the third holiest site in Islam is on fire and Palestinians live under apartheid. How out of touch can one person be? It's a good question. Is Andrew Yang stupid, or is he a sociopath? Or is it a combination? I think maybe it's a combination. I'm not sure what advisor he has because he clearly knows nothing at all about Israel and Palestine. Watch the discussion he had with Kyle Klinsky and Crystal Ball. I'll link to it below. I'll link to the clip where Kyle presses Andrew Yang on BDS. Andrew Yang has no idea. He is clueless. But he must have some advisor on his campaign that is advising him to appeal to the farthest right-wing individuals in New York City. And again, this is not a Jewish issue. This is a Israeli government issue. Yet, Andrew Yang has no friggin' clue. More here. Raf here sharing the only organized Jewish groups Yang has got endorsements from are largely Trump voters. His campaign launch to us was an appeal to money and our foreskin. And now he speaks for us. Spencer Ackerman here saying neither Yang nor the lobbyists using him as a puppet to solidify control of New York City for capital believe Palestinians are human beings. FOH, F out of here, signed a Jewish native New Yorker. Rania Kalik says, I'm standing with the people of Palestine who are being subjected to all-out warfare by an extremist Israeli government and their settler goons, shooting at them and bombing their children. I'm so ashamed of my country's support for apartheid and the politicians who cover for it. Remember when Andrew Yang was an outsider? An outsider. Parroting the same bullshit we've heard for years. Last one here. Here's a clip I'll share. So this is obviously not today, but Andrew Yang has said a lot of dumb shit in the past about Palestinians. And here he is being questioned on that and really has no idea how to reply.
From the Palestinian people in Palestine and saying that it's akin to fascist boycotts of Jewish businesses that completely disappoint many Palestinian activists, many Arabs, many Muslims who find the cause to ending the occupation of Palestine by the Israeli government absolutely abhorrent. So we wanted to hear if you had any clarifying questions about that, when there are other mayoral candidates who haven't made such comments and who have actually affirmed that we do have the right to BDS.
First, I have never made comments to that effect.
It's actually written down in the forward.
You compared Palestinians to Nazis.
That's what you said.
And I have
You compared Palestinians to fascists.
I was trying to answer a question.
No. I want to hear the answer. I want to hear the answer.
Look at that. He runs away. And the commentary, by the way, from the guy holding the phone, exactly right. And I believe that's brought up as well in the discussion that Kyle Klinsky had with Andrew Yang. So again, I'll link to that video below mine and above as well if you're on YouTube. So watch that after this. Andrew Yang really is either a complete moron or a sociopath or a combination of both. And as I said, I think it's a little of both.